All right, welcome back. Crew call today with the scooters brings a very sweet woman friend who I follow religiously on Instagram. I could be a stalker. Ashley Comans is with us today. She is a program coordinator at Hype. And about 3 seconds ago, and this is why my nose is red, I have my mother's red nose. I started to immediately tear up. She was just like laid off or furloughed. From Hype, and what an important organization during this time. I just, well, one, thank you for being here. Two, you look amazing, and three, just tell me what's going on.
So, as you said, for the past, 2020? So the past 2.5 years, I've been working with Hype, Hill Youth Partnership for Enrichment, which has been a collaborative after-school partnership in the Hill District. It involves the Center That Cares, ACH Clear Pathways, School to Career, Neighborhood Learning Alliance, and Shinley Heights Community Development. And those organizations collaborate together for increasing capacity. So we worked with transporting kids from school to after school. We transported between 150 to 200 kids every day after school. A shared teacher structure where we have teachers that would travel around to different sites to work with each program in different ways to maintain meet reading and math benchmarks, and also shared electives. So we would bring different people in and they would work with different organizations on an activity. Prior to all of this happening, we were working with Karen Alexander from XR Connected. She does a lot of virtual and augmented reality. So our students in the after school programs were basically, getting an experience with a lot of the technical work that's happening today, with Facebook building offices in the Strip District. A lot of that type of work were it was connected to this particular elective that we had two of our partners starting to work with. And what else? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, and then we do a scholarship banquet every year where we award 8th through 12th graders, two from each high school program. And this year we decided to pick one 8th grader from two of our programs with middle schoolers. And each kid would receive $500, and then the high school students would do an interview and essay process for an additional $2,000. So two kids would receive a $2,500 scholarship from this partnership of after-school providers. And as I was planning for this upcoming year's banquet, which unfortunately has been canceled, I tallied together the amount of money, and they've given out over $30,000 in scholarships over the past 4 years to high school students from the Hill District. And I think that speaks a lot to the type of work that can happen when our foundations are really supporting the out-of-school network and the opportunities that they can provide for kids, outside of their school day. So it was very rewarding work. I loved working. I did that partnership through APOST, Allegheny Partners for Out of School Time, which is through the United Way. And it's an amazing team. The current director there is Stephanie Lewis, who I absolutely adore. And as we go through this, I really keep her lifted because she lost her whole team. Wow. Our particular group, APOST, we only had 3 full-time positions within the network. The rest of us were all contractors and, part-time staff technically. Mm-hmm. So when the United Way let go of all of their contractors and part-time employees, that involved basically the whole team. And so it happened very quickly, unexpectedly. And, it's just really uncertain, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I do know that this year they will still be able to provide the scholarships to the students that were selected, because we had just gotten through the selection process. All of the partners had submitted their kids that they were picking for this school year, and then school ends, everything basically shuts down, and it's I mean, I'm speechless.
Yeah.
I think that, it's, I told my director, I still talk about Stephanie as if I work for her, but I told her, I'm not really sure, what is going to be next for me in a sense of work. I know right now that's not an option at this point. Maybe when things kind of go back to normal, I don't really think things are going to go back to normal as quickly as we think they are. But when we get back into their school and there's after school work, if I'm in a space that I'm still available, I would be more than willing to come back and hop back into the work. But right now, I mean, it's kind of a time for me to pull together the things I've done, what I've learned, and figure out how I want to navigate as well moving forward. I think I feel really vulnerable in the position that I was in with working with APOS in the United Way. So I'm not sure if I go back, I would do it in the same capacity of how I'm contracted to work with them. I would like to be able to have a little bit more control over that. So we'll see, or if there's just some changes overall organizationally, maybe that could present opportunities. But I mean, right now at this moment, I am home. Fortunately, my husband is still working, and I have a little baby who is growing quickly. So, putting a lot of time into her, and also just like I said, thinking about, some other ideas that I've had that I, with this kind of time, can maybe put down to paper and see what comes, from that. But
you've always been really involved because you sat on the Wilkinsburg School District, and and you're very involved with Mayor Garrett. So and you're doing stuff in that community as well. So feeling vulnerable. So you're feeling vulnerable because I think the vulnerability, and you're so creative and so talented and have been able to impact very quickly in terms of things that you guys have done. I mean, I think that's, that's kind of your calling card. You go in there and you shake some stuff up and you make some things happen. So when you're thinking about that, how are you keeping your mental state at peace to be able to, especially because you have a beautiful daughter and you're a mom, and now it's like, okay, what are we doing? Because the community in whole, do you live in Wilkinsburg? Are you so the community at whole is still rebuilding, and here we are with all of this. I mean, how are you keeping your mental? So two questions, of course.
Right.
How are you keeping your mental state? But then what about your friends and the community that you've been so influential in help supporting?
So, yes, there's a lot of things are happening. I know right now, Marita Garrett, our mayor, also runs civically. And so as a community, she has been able to maintain the same type of work she's been doing, but everything's just kind of had to kind of transition with my husband being on the school board. I'm kind of like a proxy per se, because I kind of still know what's going on, so I can ask those questions with the public information of what school boards do, and also kind of talk to him about things like, well, what about this? And do you, or ask these questions. But they have been able to provide food for, kids in the community that need it. At multiple locations. One of the school board directors really took lead on that. And they have what I will say is, I know they have stopped at some of the locations, but they did that because there weren't a lot of people coming.
Oh, okay.
Which for me is just kind of like, well, good. That kind of lets me know that there's some spaces where they're self-sustaining, and so they're not really in need of that extra help. But the ones who do need it, they're able to transfer those resources to the areas where people are showing up. And if in regards to like my street and when I look outside my door, my neighbors are, you know, for the most part, I believe they're staying in. I don't really see too much. There's a lot of older people that live around me too. I have neighbors who have 2 young kids that do go to the public school. And they've given out, I know for our district, they've given out worksheets. I think this moment has really put a spotlight on technology and internet access and the necessity that it is. It is for all communities. It's no longer it's essential. Like everyone needs it. It's not I'm losing my words
luxury
right now, but
yeah, it's not a luxury.
Yeah,
not a luxury. Yeah.
Can we talk about the schools a little bit? So they're handing out worksheets for the kids to do.
K through 6.
K through 6, and they're not online. They're not able to, you know, teach online.
Not yet, at least.
You know, again, you're seeing that the difference in just by zip code.
Right.
Yeah, definitely a difference by zip code. And also, I mean, I've said this prior to this whole pandemic, funding for public education is just not equitable. And if there's any time to really shine a light on that, it's now. Even Pittsburgh public schools, you know, they are just now getting started. And I had a conversation with my friend this morning. And the one thing I did say to her about this is every single school district, no matter what people's perspectives or outlooks are on them, they're trying their best. Nobody has ever gone through something like this before. Right. And so unfortunately, we don't have a blueprint. The baby is crawled over to me. We don't have a blueprint, and I'm gonna say hi.
Oh my gosh!
Hi, Valerie.
She's so sweet.
That's great.
She's so sweet.
Nobody has a blueprint for how to navigate this space that we're in, and so I think the biggest thing everyone needs to give is grace at this point. For just a number of reasons, for teachers, for educators, for parents, grandparents, guardians, every single person that has to make a decision about where we go from here is trying to make the best decision that they can.
Hey, Ashley, can I ask you a question about Wilkinsburg School District? We were sitting up at Brashear, and we were talking about kind of the level at which the kids are in, because we do some work with HCEF, the Homeless Children's Education Fund, and they were talking about Brashear. 70% of the kids there are at poverty level or below. Is that around the same in terms of Wilkinsburg, or is it a little, because when people don't understand, like, what do you mean you don't have internet? What do you mean you don't have whatever? I mean,
so I don't know the number in a sense of poverty level of 70%, but what I could say is we do have an estimate of about 30 homeless families, and we only have 2 schools. So for only having 2 schools, that's a lot of families. We are K through 5. So you figure that could be, if we just spread those numbers out, that's 15 kids per school. Wow. And 3 kids per grade. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And you were talking about the school or the sites for people to get. That's the grab and go stations for the food in the community. And who's supporting that? Like, how are they getting the food? Is that just coming from the community, or is it coming from the Pittsburgh Food Bank, or how are you guys doing that?
So Community Forge, which is, like it's that entrepreneur type incubator, they have a lot of after school programs that operate out of there. And one of the programs is receiving food from, I'm not sure if it's a county or a state program, but he's receiving food. It's Michael Johnson. He's one of the school board directors. And they've been, I'm trying to think, Dante, is the school district providing milk? Yeah, so the district is providing the milk that they've had, and then he's able to provide the food that he's already been receiving, but they've increased it for the district, or for, not that for the district, but for this moment. And they were distributing at initially 3 locations, but then they went down to 2.
Okay.
And are they communicating it with like the people who live in that region? Like, are they able to, let them know when that's happening, and how's that work?
Yeah, so with our school district, we actually get a really good response from robocalls.
Okay.
So they send out robocalls to all of our families. And remember, our kids, although we're K through 5, our Westinghouse students and our kids that go to a few of the PPS magnet schools, they're still registered with the district. So those kids are also being contacted as well whenever they do the robocalls for the district. So those have gotten good responses, and the feedback that I've been getting about each of the food locations, they've been going well. And in addition to that, I know civically, like I said, and Marita have revamped with the Wilkinsburg Free Store, which has, just a lot of different household items that people can go and take for free. I just fed her.
She's so cute. Oh, she's so cute.
So sweet.
Thank you.
Look at that little that little face.
I know. So sweet.
Now,
It's like working from home with your kids, our coworkers, right?
Yeah,
That
she's a good one. She's a good coworker.
the best kind of coworkers. So, and you have you're always thinking, you're always trying to do some new things. So you have a podcast that is it you and your husband started? Is that, or is it?
So my husband is like the producer.
Okay.
I can be timid at times, which is kind of odd to say, but when it's something that is for me to put myself out there, it's easy for me to lift up other things and people that I might have my hands in, but my face isn't like right in front.
Right.
So, I have a background in journalism. I wanted to be a news reporter. It didn't work out the way that I had planned. And this was the end of last year. My husband called me up one day and he said, so you should do a podcast, and it should be called Black Political Millennials. I already called Martell and talked to him about it, and he's down to co-host with you.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. Let's do it then.
Yeah.
And so Martell Covington, a really good friend of ours, is the co-host with me. He works in Senator Costa's office. He is, a really involved person. He has done a lot of work in Homewood, the Homewood CEA, community, and the name is slipping my mind, but
That's okay.
Yeah, Homewood CEA, Community Empowerment Association, that's it. His stepfather started that, and so he's been really involved with that for years. He's helped with the Homewood Youth Football Association. He's an HBCU alumni. He went to Howard University, and we just clicked really well together when it came down to discussing politics. I'm way more blunt, and he is a lot more like, okay, yeah, Ashley, and he knows how to bring it back in, so I don't just like, so I love that about him.
That's awesome.
We are currently trying to figure out, which we kind of have it pinned down, how we can record in this space of social distancing.
Right.
My husband has a podcast, and they worked through some stuff yesterday, and they were able to do their show. So we're going to be able to get back to ours. But unfortunately, earlier today, we're going to delay it a little longer. His brother-in-law passed away in New York from this virus yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So it is just,
I'm so sorry.
I know, it is becoming, I feel like every day I'm someone that I know directly is losing a close family member, and it's scary because it just makes you feel like that it's just getting closer and closer to home. So it's, you know, we are planning to come back. There is so much that we want to talk about. We've been keeping in touch with all of these updates. You know, Bernie Sanders dropping out yesterday was major. I think a lot of us were a little heartbroken when it happened, because if you ask me, the media gave it to Joe Biden. But, you know, what can we do at this point?
Well, speaking, I want to go back because I want to talk about the podcast, but I want to talk about, and I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it's kind of like, this is what we're in. It's like the battle we're in right now. And you can't help but to speak with someone in here that they've lost someone.
We were talking before, and I want to touch upon it because I think it's really important. You said when everybody else gets a cold, a Black person gets the flu. Can you get, I think the context of what that means and how it's affecting, you know, communities all across the country, all across the world. I think it's really important to kind of synthesize what you're seeing, because you're like, everybody I know is being affected by it, where I might not have somebody that is directly affected by me. Tell me, can you just give some context to what that meant for you?
Yes. I mean, I think, you know, we have always, until our country wants to really talk about racism and the effects of 400 plus years of not doing right by Black folks. I mean, just to put it in a bland and overall statement, these are the results of that. These are the results of redlining. These are the results of segregation. These are the results of lack of health care. These are the results that are always going to
adversely affect the
I
mean, it is.
Because prior to this happening, we were already struggling as a whole. You know, we were already treading water. So now it's, you know,
overwhelming.
You know, even for me, you know, like, yes, I'm a Black woman, but I also count my privilege, because I also understand that I am, you know, I'm able to stay home. Even with me being laid off, I'm able to stay home. I'm able to still feed my family and have things that we need, watch cable and have the internet and things like that. But I know that someone that lives down the street from me probably isn't in that same position. And I have friends who have siblings. These aren't even like parents and grandparents that are passing away. They're siblings. 2 days ago, a friend of mine, I had met through my work when I was at WPXI, her sister passed away. And if it's not someone that I'm directly connected to, it's someone I'm directly connected to that knows someone that is sick or is not doing well or is headed to the hospital. And I don't know if you saw, there was a headline I read yesterday in St. Louis. All of the deaths were Black people.
Wow.
Every single death from this virus. So it's, you know, I won't bring it up, but when we have folks here in this region that have platforms and they can talk about what they feel, is it worth us, shutting the economy down for this small percentage of folks that this is going to affect. It's very insensitive. It's
ignorant.
Yes, it's ignorant. Yeah. Yes. And
it's true.
I don't understand. And even our own, our own state legislature, the GOP is really, they're not thinking about people's lives. They are taking this as a joke until one of them does actually lose their life, and that's not what leadership should be about. And to know that that's leadership, we're in the middle of an election season.
Right.
These are the conversations that we need to be having so that folks know their rights, folks know their access. There's a lot of push with mail-in ballots, and we really, really, really have to vote, and we have to complete the census. The census, we're in a census year. There's so many things happening right now. What they did in Wisconsin the other day, I know one of their a city councilwoman out of Wisconsin, and I forget specifically the city, but when the Supreme Court there overturned the delaying of their elections, it was just like, you are literally willing to risk blood on your hands as a governor. And
I think that's what's so important, that you have your podcast and that you guys are up and running and continue to talk, because I think it's important. I mean, you have a very strong voice, and I think it's, you're really well informed, and I think sometimes breaking it down for people so that they understand, because there's so much news out there, and whether or not you believe all of it or not, I mean, we try to read from all sides, all of it, and then kind of smush it together and go, maybe this is
this is
the truth. And using your influence. And I, when we first met, I knew, I was like, this girl, she's you inspire me, because it was like listening to your podcast, paying attention to what you're doing, how you're raising up and how you're putting yourself out there to help and to change things, I think is unbelievable. I mean, it forces us to do it. It forces us to go, you gotta continue to move, and opening up the spaces that people can talk about. And I think that's why it was like, we have to talk with you, because
absolutely.
It's so important, because everybody's voice needs to be heard. And it's like,
we appreciate it.
People are speaking, it's just who's listening, right? And so the platforms need to be there for everybody to have their voice and be able to say it. And I appreciate you so much, because
thank you.
You continue to inspire me, and I know your love, your husband and you, and your love and your family. It's the way it's supposed to be, and I respect it so much, and I just appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. It's, being a new mom is very life-changing, to say the least, especially doing this kind of work, because just being a mom is a lot of work in itself. And I appreciate having specifically women like you and like my girlfriends who consistently keep me uplifted, because I can't lie. There are times when I can have doubt, but sometimes it's inevitable when you see so much, you're paying attention to so much, and you feel like, what was all that work for? And now we're taking some steps back, and so it gets hard. But when there's people that continue to encourage you and uplift you, it's oftentimes thankless work. And so I'm so appreciative of people that keep me grounded and reminded why I got into doing this kind of work in the first place. So
you're important, you're important, and you're important to me, and I watch what you do, and it is thankless work, but I know that there are people like they might not say it, but they do appreciate it. And I know what a blessing you have been for that community and for what you do. And I think you need to have about 12 more children, because every one of them will be as gorgeous as Bellamy. Honest to God, I mean,
She's so sweet.
what a gorgeous child. What a gorgeous child. And,
Perfect.
Aw.
Yeah, we are just completely smitten by her.
she's a good mama, and she's a good papa. So I appreciate you, and thank you so much. We'll make sure we link the profile in the podcast so people can see it. And I think it's important to get back up and keep talking. You know, I think it's really important, especially in this time. People need to know how to help. You know, there are people that want to help. They don't know how, because they're not paying attention.
And in this time when we're used to using ourselves to help, you know, we're used to going out and doing something. And right now helping is staying home.
Right.
You know, unless you're an essential worker, life or death don't go out, you know? And it's hard. I looked at the calendar today. I was like, oh my goodness, it's been 4 weeks.
I know.
But yeah, you know, that's how you can help. If you're able to donate. There's so many resources out there. I try to share as much as I can, you know, when it comes across my space. So if anyone follows me, you can put all of my social information on there, so that people can look through what I may share. So I thank you all for doing this and asking me. I'm honored that, you know, you want to hear me talk.
All right. Anytime I can, and I can't, you know, I'm not sticking in a camera in your face now, but I'm sure the day will come again that I'll be doing that, because I always love to hear perspective and I learn, and I think people need to understand everything that's going on. And I appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Thank you for allowing your daughter to come into the picture too. I mean, I think that's the most joy I have.
Yes.
You're so welcome. Yeah. I love to bring her in whenever she's welcome. So
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Have a good rest of the day and a good weekend. And you know how to get in touch with me.
I do. And happy Easter to you and your family. And
happy Easter.
And I apologize for changing the time so many times.
That's another story.
All right. Bye, my friend. Bye-bye.